2021. This is a virtual meeting via Zoom, no public attendance. Our agenda for tonight is a financial update from Cheryl, a review of proposed articles for the annual town meeting, status report on how the library building is going, and plans for the senior center. We'll do a public input and members update. We have minutes approval, and then adjourn. So Cheryl, we'll start right off with you, if it's okay. You ready?
I'm ready. Thank you, Alan. So just to give a general overview of the finances of the town at this point in the year, things are still looking good from a budgetary standpoint. We're still, our expenses are still tracking below where we would expect, and our revenues are 79% to budget, which is right about where we would expect it to be at this time during the fiscal year. So those are both some good news. As we look at the revenues, our interest income, as you would expect, is down. We all know what's been going on in the markets, and that's definitely impacted that revenue stream. As we anticipated, our meals tax is down as well, about $83,000 compared to last year at the same time. However, we are tracking about 90% to budget to that. So our budget number that we revised and worked on last year is still holding firm. Hotel tax is probably the one which I think we've talked about before, which actually took a much bigger hit than we had anticipated when we built the budget last spring. Hotel tax is down $182,000 from last year at the same time, and is only 29% to budget. The good news, though, is our building permit revenue is still on track. As far as it relates to the state and any updates on ARPA, it's still a waiting game a little bit, unfortunately. We had a call, I think it was last week, with them, and they said probably another month or so until they'll be coming out with solidified guidance and estimates. We did find out, though, that FEMA will now cover PPE and cleaning for non-first responders starting, it goes from January 2021, which at this point had been charged to our CARES fund. So that will help to free up some funding in our CARES fund once we can reclass some of that. And then, I mentioned this in my email to the committee, but we do know that the hotel and IBM have both filed for abatements this year. So again, not surprising necessarily, but just something we continue to keep track of.
Yeah, what's with IBM? I see they got a big sign up, 500,000 square feet for rent. Are they just going to move out?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Okay. That's a whole new way of doing business now. We found out everybody could work from home, right?
I guess so.
Yes. So, any questions about the update from any members?
Yeah, I have one. With regards to these abatements, do we have any insight as to how much they're looking for total?
No, I don't at this time. I know the assessors are taking it up at their next meeting, which is in about a week and a half. So I'm not sure, but I mean, it is, this is based off their January value. And so while, we expect that there might, the Board of Assessors might allow some level of abatement, it's not, when we think of what their real estate taxes are based on, it was based off their value in January.
Are they asking for an abatement on the, at least on the IBM side, on the equipment inside as well?
No.
Okay, so it's not on the equipment, it's just the real estate value. Okay.
Correct.
Because they're on that TIF, and I think they're on the last year of the TIF, right?
I thought it was, but actually we found the agreement and it goes to 2029.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't think it
Yeah.
went out that far. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it on the higher end though of, because I know it kind of hockey stick, right? It was really low first,
Right.
I don't know, 10 years or so. So maybe from now till 29, it's on the higher end.
Correct.
Okay. Great. And what's their, do you know what their taxes are now? How much between the two buildings is about $750,000 or more in tax revenue?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I can certainly get that for you, but it's,
Curious.
yeah,
I'm wondering what that hit's going to be.
it's, substantial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Fine. We're now move to the review of the proposed articles for the ATM. I know the selectmen had a meeting about that last night also. And I think they put most everything onto the warrant except for 2 or 3 articles that we're still waiting for information from. Is that right, Anthony? Okay. Cheryl,
Yes,
you
sorry, I had on mute. Yes, you're right, Alan.
Do you want me to share screen, Alan?
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way for us to do this.
Sure.
We'll deal with the financial articles.
So as Ellen mentioned, the select board met last night to vote to put certain articles onto the warrant. The first 2 are not financially related. They did vote to put Article 3, bill of prior years. And just stop me if anyone has any questions as I go through this. Article 4, which is our standard operating budget article. Article 5, which is our standard departmental revolving fund article. Article 6, which is the water enterprise fund budget. Article 7, sewer enterprise fund budget. Article 8, the park and rec enterprise fund budget. Article 9 is capital. Article 10 is the borrowing for the design services for the senior center project.
Cheryl, is the
There's
thought,
2 parts to that, Cheryl. There's 2 parts to that senior center article. Part 1 is the borrowing, part 2 is the study to get to design.
okay, is the plan at this moment that this is going to be inside the levy?
Yes,
If
that's
we
the
get to the
direction.
seniors-
Yeah, that's the direction that the select board chose to go with. And yes, inside the levy. So there'll be no more additional tax burden for the residents.
Okay, and I assume that we're borrowing $1 million instead of taking $1 million out of the 3 million that's in the senior center fund for some financial machinations.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, Cheryl, I'm sorry. I know that you were about this. Yeah, it makes sense to certainly if the town was supportive of the borrowing, then that's a good thing. I think with if we were to use that and then all of a sudden we go out for construction, say next annual town meeting, maybe earlier, I don't know, probably next annual town meeting, then at that point in time, if we waited till then for the borrowing, then we would have already expended $1 million. If the town supports it this way, then that's a good indication that they're going to continue forward with through construction.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
This is for Anthony or Cheryl. Is this going to be bonded over 30 years, or how long are we looking at bonding this?
Probably 20.
Yeah.
A 20-year bond? Now, since that's being funded inside the levy, that's going to be subject to the 2.5% increase every year on top of what we already have, right? Every year when we go up 2.5%, this is going to be part of that, correct?
Correct.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Correct. So what does that look like to the taxpayer? I mean, I think we should be transparent here. You know, something that I never really thought much about in the past. I said, wow, we do it inside the levy. It doesn't really cost us any more. It's not going to be an increase to the taxpayer, but it really is.
Well,
Because we're taking that million and we're going to be adding 2.5% to that every year.
I don't necessarily agree with that statement, Greg. I think what if we did this or if we didn't do this, your taxes are going to increase by 2.5% next year. That's a pretty much a guarantee, right? So,
Correct?
by doing this, what we're saying is that we have the capacity within our existing budget to handle the debt service payment. So even if we didn't do this, it's you're not going to see a decrease in your taxes. If we do it or don't do it, there's no effect.
No, but there still is impact in the long run, right? With 2.5% increase on this borrowing every year.
No,
Am I not understanding that right, or am I out in left field here?
so
You're not out in left field, Greg, though.
No.
Anytime.
Center field, where we need.
so what Anthony's saying is that what we have to do is the borrowing and the payment on the borrowing. We have to make sure we fit within our operating budget, which can only increase by the 2.5% levy. And so it's
So something
it's
else gets
with-
kicked out.
Right.
right. So something else has to, we have to make sure that we can fit it within the current budget, which is based off the 2.5%.
Understood. Okay, fair enough. I was out in left field a little bit.
No, Greg, no way. Never out in left field.
But that's a matter of opinion.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the senior center article? And as Anthony mentioned, the second part of that is just transferring some capital articles that have unused funds that are not needed to fund the feasibility study. Article 11 is appropriating the money that we received from Northbridge for certain capital projects. Article 12 is the standard CPC budget article. Article.
Can I interrupt a minute? I mean, are we going to go back over these, or is this it? Because if so, we need to go back. We need to go through some more detail on these. I don't know at Northbridge. What is the money from Northbridge? Seems like we're just rushing through this stuff. We need to spend a lot of time on these.
So
You could ask a question whenever you feel like it, Beth.
All right.
So Northbridge is the Amazon facility payment.
Right. So there was a host community agreement that was negotiated between Northbridge and the town. And that mitigation payment was, what was it, 1.2, Cheryl?
Yeah.
Yeah, $1.2 million. What was identified in negotiating that were these three specific projects. There was the communications for the police for $400,000. There was the highway. They had requested sidewalks from 153 Taylor to oh my God, it's
Depot?
Foster Street, probably. To the train.
where? Say it again, Betsy.
Foster Street down to the trains, so you can get.
Yes, right. Yeah. So, and then we were also going to try to put a flashing crosswalk, sort of like the one that's at Kimball's, so people can cross Taylor Street to get to the train station. And the the last thing, I'm sorry, was some investments in the water infrastructure. for $330,000. So those were negotiated. There's still 120,000 that's left undesignated right now, although I think that Selectman Knox would like to see $30,000 to fund at the request of the Transportation Advisory Council as well as BPAC, to fund a sidewalk, pedestrian, trails master plan for town. Tyler, you were on that, right? There was some discussion.
Yeah. You see, you got a chance to connect with Chris on that. I think that was the next step there, right?
Yeah, Tyler, I actually ended up talking to MAPC and they gave me that dollar amount. And if we use MAPC, they throw in some money too. So the thing is that probably they couldn't start that until the beginning of 22. So it's a start to get the project going.
Great.
Betsy, that answer all your questions there?
I guess the water infrastructure is just pipes and so on getting to that facility.
It's part of that. I think that there's part of a generator with the pumping station or something. And I'm sorry, I don't know enough about Nick's, but I know it was items that he needed to help support this project.
Okay, thank you.
So just to confirm on that, it is strictly for this project, not something else.
Yeah, to my knowledge, it's all dealing with water for this project. Obviously, I think that other residents could benefit from what they do, but
Sure.
it was needed to support this project. Was my understanding.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I think the one thing that came up on our TAC meeting too is I think the sidewalk improvements here are going to tie into some future things that are being paid for with a tip. Eventually, it'll go up to Grimes Lane and the Durkee properties up there. So it's kind of a while this initially impacts the Amazon facility, we're going to be able to tie into it for some future development.
Right.
Okay, article, oh, go ahead, Alan, sorry.
No, any other questions? Okay, we'll move to Article 12.
Okay, Article 12 is the CPC budget.
Cheryl, is the housing money, I see the reserves are being transferred to Affordable Housing Trust. In the future, is it planned for that money that comes in through housing for community preservation? Is that still all going to go to the Affordable Housing Trust?
Correct.
Okay. So CPC is out of the housing business, they're just transferring money.
Correct.
You're the banker.
I know in the past that they've used some of that money for upgrades or things that need to be done in senior housing in town, like not Mill Pond, but Shattuck Street. If those needs are still there in the future, is Littleton Affordable Housing Trust, do they have the same ability to help out as the CPC had? Does anybody know?
Anthony, I don't know if you know the answer to that.
Ellen,
but
are you saying that in the past the CPC has helped out the housing authority? Is that when you're referencing Shattuck Street?
Yes.
So that's a really good question, and I'm not sure of the answer for that one, Alan.
Yeah.
Good question.
With a housing trust, it's going to be different rules and regulations of what they do as opposed to CPC.
Well, it's my understanding, though, if the money's coming from CPC, they still have to follow the CPC rules as far as spending, too.
correct.
Okay. Might be good to just lock that down somewhere along the way. I know it's not germane to finance right now, but it could be.
I think it's probably fair to say, Alan, where if there was a project that was identified prior to town meeting, then maybe this transfer doesn't happen, and maybe that CPC wants to allocate it somewhere else.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
yeah, great points, and I can definitely talk to Cindy about that.
Okay.
And just in general too, because the last, they used to come to us, and it seems like the state and so on is doing more of that now, where there used to be a lot of questions like why is the town of Littleton paying for this, that housing updates anyway? And it seems like the state, the other things that are organizations that are there are stepping up to do more of those. I'm on CPC and they haven't asked for much since I've been on last few years.
Okay. Thank you, Cheryl. Good.
You're welcome. Article 13 is not a financial article. It's just amending wording from a previous vote. Article 14 is potentially a compensation grid. Article 15 is a placeholder article, just in the event that PRCE will need to use any of their retained earnings to balance their budget at the end of this fiscal year.
Is there any more talk about them switching out of an enterprise fund? What's the status of all that?
I mean, there have been ongoing discussions about that. Anthony, feel free to jump in here if you want to jump in here. I do know that they are exploring it and they are, open to that concept.
Right. I just, Betsy, I think it's just the bandwidth at this time. If I'm not sure that we can really wrap everything up for this town meeting, and maybe have to be something that we address in the fall. But we've had, as Cheryl indicated, conversations with them, and they understand our concerns with an enterprise fund. So it's not something that we're gonna let just go by the wayside. We're still gonna follow through with that.
Okay, thank you.
Article 16 is also a placeholder article in the event that Anthony's in the middle of negotiations right now with CBAs, in the event that we're able to come to an agreement before town meeting. Article 17 is the standard article using the debt exclusion stabilization fund, transferring money out to help offset the budget.
Wait, so we're using it for what?
So we transfer out of the debt exclusion fund.
Debt exclusion. Okay, sorry. I
Yeah.
thought we were capital. Yeah, debt exclusion. Got it.
Article 18 is our standard transfer to the general stabilization fund.
Okay, so that's a nice round number, but usually we do that to get it up to a percentage of the budget. Is that correct?
Yes. It's usually a percent of, yes, the percent of the budget. And
We have a perfect budget this year.
sometimes we round up a little bit to make things easier. Don't want to use dollars and cents all the time. The next one is the capital stabilization transfer, Article 19, transferring to the capital stabilization fund. Article 20, right now, I believe, Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong, is this one on the warrant at this point in Article 20?
So yeah, so Article 20 will be on the warrant. So this is accepting paragraph 4 of section 5B of chapter 30 of the Mass General Laws. What this does is it allows the select board, and it ties into the next article, to dedicate the marijuana excise or future HCA payments to a stabilization fund that they may choose um, to put money into. So instead of just throwing them any money that we get into marijuana, maybe we want to do it a different way. So 20 gives us the authority to do that. 21 would, if they're ready to make a selection as far as what stabilization fund, whether it be creating a new one or just putting in our standard stabilization, our general stabilization, then they could do that. 20, I think it will definitely stay in this article, this warrant. 21 is an iffy because in all reality, they're not expecting to open the doors of any of the retail establishments till the end of the calendar year, beginning of the next. So there's no hurry with 21.
Okay.
Good.
So are you saying 21's gonna go up in smoke for now?
Yeah, there you go. No pun intended. I like that. And you said you were in left field, Greg. Come on.
I'm feeling punchy tonight.
Article 22 is the standard Conservation Commission open space budget article. Article 23 is the standard senior citizen and veteran tax work-off program. Article 24, I believe the select board is actually going to be discussing this a little bit more at their next meeting. But what this is Kathy, the chief assessor, presented two potential options to try and increase the senior exemptions, to try and garner some additional individuals that would be eligible. There's 41D, which we could adopt, which is what you see here in Article 24, which effectively allows us to increase the income and assets by what is cost of living increase each year. And so by doing that helps widen the pool of potential candidates. There is another clause, 41C and a half, that could be considered. That one, only one other community has adopted that. There are some positives, but there are some, downfalls of that as well too. So that discussion, I think, is ongoing.
So this is different than the work-off abatement program, is that correct?
Correct.
So they're looking to just index it so you don't have to pick a number every year, right?
Well, right now it's static. So the income and assets are set and they're static and they don't increase.
Right.
So by doing this, it allows us to try and kind of keep up with, I don't want to say inflation, but at least, every year increase those two.
Yeah, you could have someone that today qualifies for this, but because they get a slight increase in their social security, it may put them over the limit, right? So you're trying to keep pace with that. Is that the
Correct.
intent here, the spirit?
Right.
Yes.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Greg. Yeah, because it's been the same threshold now for a number of years. So this kind of just grows with it.
Yep, makes sense. Do you have any idea what kind of cost that's going to be to us yet, or we're still working on it?
I don't know that we know what that would be. I mean, I think Kathy said we have 5 or 6 individuals that actually qualified last year, and I don't think she sees that. I think maybe we might double that amount, but
It's minimal.
It is
has been in the
minimal.
past.
It really is so minimal that we're trying to get there, and maybe at a future town meeting, there's something else that we try to do, but we're just trying to better the process than it was last year. So this article starts that, starts the process. I think it's still really a work in progress, though, as we figure this out.
I think it's a good idea. And it
Yeah.
is a minimal cost to the town.
Okay, Article 25 is moving money from free cash to fund a deficit in Chapter 90. This is really, it's an article we have to have on, but it's really, at the end of the day, kind of an accounting issue. The bill that should have been expended against the general fund budget was expended against Chapter 90. We closed the books. We couldn't correct the issue because the books were closed. So now we have to take money from free cash, which the money from, not expending it out of the general fund fell to free cash. We have to take money from free cash, apply it to the Chapter 90 fund because it's a separate fund to clear up the deficit. So it's really just taking it from one bucket, moving it to another bucket, but it's a requirement that we have to have.
And then next year you take it back again in free cash.
Yeah. So it's a cleanup article.
Yes.
That's the best way to say it.
So not to get too picky on the details, but we have those financial policies that say this is how the free cash is supposed to be allocated and used. Is there one of the provisions in there that allows for this or that this fits into?
And so the provision, so there's policies that dictate how that gets spent, going to various stabilization funds, and then what we have to keep as unspent. So once we have met those policies, then free cash is available for whatever legal purpose the town would like to spend it on.
Yeah, but the policies go on and on. Once the requirements are met, then what's left? We could do this, we could do that. I'm not questioning it. I'm just curious whether the policy accommodates this, and if not, it's something else we should make sure that it does the way it's written. So we can keep going. I know this is just accounting cleanup, so it's not going to be significant anyway, but it would just be good to understand that.
Sounds like you're concerned about precedent here.
Well, somewhat, and then plus the whole thing with the AAA is that you follow your policies, and so if we need to be able to do something like this, which we should, then I just want to, and it's probably already there. Honestly, I just don't remember, and I was just trying to think where it would fall in. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the next article, Article 26, is the LCTV budget article. Article 27 is rescinding Mill Pond dredging article.
So what's the story on that? That's not going to happen now?
No, so actually, I don't know that this is actually the second article that they've rescinded. I don't know if you recall the initial one. I think it was back at annual town meeting. I can't remember if it was annual or special, but they had ended up receiving, I believe Corey said they ended up receiving money from, was it the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so they didn't, because they received that money, they didn't need this money to do that project.
Still not doing anything though, right? That's the other part of it.
I believe they're still working on the project. Article 28 is not a financial article. Bylaw amendment. Article 29 is not a financial article. It's just actually changing the titles to match the reorg. Article 30 is a bylaw amendment. Article 31 is a bylaw amendment. I don't know, actually, Anthony, if we have any other remaining financial articles, as I'm looking at the list. I think that might be it.
I think so.
my fellow board members would probably kill me, but I'd like to go back to the beginning when we were skipping through all those so quickly and see what they were again.
We're not taking a vote on these tonight, right? I mean, they're not
No.
complete.
No,
So it's just a review of them. Ben.
Oh, okay, never mind then, okay,
I won't kill you.
okay.
So that's it for financial
I'll
articles.
stay in right field then, you're in left field, so it's okay.
We'll catch the balls.
we were just gonna do a review so that you could, if anybody had any initial questions, they could come up with them. We'll probably vote on our recommendation, yea or nay, probably on the 27th, our next meeting. We'll review it again, answer all the questions and make vote.
Anthony, do you think we'll have the it ready on the 27th, actually? Or do you think
No,
it
you
needs to
know,
meet
we
on
were
the-
talking about this today, Alan. Maybe, was it May 4th that we were talking about if Fincom could
Correct.
meet? The select board will probably make their recommendations on May 10th. I think that's what
I was planning a meeting on May 11th, so, but we could back it up to May 4th.
if you could, yeah, because May 11th, I'd have to get the warrant book to the printer. So once we close business on that day, then we need to
Okay.
start getting that finished.
All right, that's good. So we'll do that then. And if there's anything left hanging, we can always make our recommendations on the floor.
Mhm.
We've done that in the past, so that's not a problem.
Yep,
Any other
we can-
questions?
We can do an
That's
insert too, Alan, just, you know, if we had any articles that were still like the CBA, if we not ready in time for this to go to the printer and we're still negotiating with the unions, you know, we have right up until June 12th. So we would just do an amendment to the town meeting report, and then pass it out the day of town meeting and explain that there's been a change on an article.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody about the articles?
Mr. Chair, not about the articles, but just kind of looking at the calendar. So we have a meeting scheduled on the 27th. We're going to have one on the 4th.
Yep.
Need to have both of those? Will we need to meet on the 27th?
Let's leave it open at the moment. There may be something that we need to do between now and the 4th.
Okay.
We could always cancel.
Okay.
All right, we're looking for, how's, give us an update on the library. How's that going? It looks to me like if they put one more piece of paper on the top of the roof, the whole thing is gonna collapse. Because that's all I've seen all winter long is one layer and one layer and another layer and another layer.
Do you want me to give the update on the library, Anthony? Do you want? Okay.
Sure,
So-
you can.
So as you've probably noticed, it's certainly moving along according to timeline. I think, you know, the plan is, I think this fall is when we anticipate that they'll be moving out. So things have been moving right along, and no delays or issues there with construction.
We've already had part of our discussion on the senior center. Was there anything else that we needed to know about that?
Happy to explain, and I gave an update yesterday to the Council on Aging Board, and I did one, excuse me, for the Select Board last night. So the question was, what's going on now, Alan?
Yeah.
So right now we're a little bit in a holding pattern. Obviously, we need $80,000 to do the feasibility study. So, and until town meeting authorizes us to spend, we really can't spend. Now, we may have some money in the space needs project, which would which may allow us to start a little bit early with the study. But what we're trying to do now is we're trying to have our consultants, LLB architects, to produce their final deliverables for us, as well as all their invoices, so we can determine how much money we have left. So, in the event that we were able to start maybe a month early and we can fund that prior to town meeting, we could do that. But other than that, we're just in a waiting pattern until town meeting says, okay, here's the money to start that study.
Okay. Was part of the charge for LLB to give you some recommendations on the reuse of the old library space once they move out?
No, not what we've had them do so far.
So that'll be another thing to be.
To look
Okay.
at, sure, it would be. Obviously we have some restrictions as far as how much we could put into a renovation before we have to bring the whole building up to AAB code,
Right.
and so forth, and life safety code. So it's a lot. It's a lot to figure out. So right now the priority is let's get this senior center underway, and then we'll look at that space.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions on anything? Okay.
We have
Go ahead.
ballpark timeline and when something will actually be built?
For a senior center, Betsy?
Yes.
I'd love for it to be done by August, but we know that's not going to happen. So realistically, Betsy, it's probably a few months for the feasibility study. Then, because we asked for the borrowing to get us through design, so then they can immediately start without needing another town meeting to authorize the design. That could take up to 9 months, up to a year. So I'm really hoping, and it's probably ambitious to think that we'd be coming back next annual town meeting and asking for construction money. But at the very latest, it would be in the fall. So if we can wrap everything up and ask for construction money next annual, then great, construction could start in the summer. If we have to wait till the fall, then we'll have to start the construction right after town meeting and start just before the winter, and just like the library, and continue on through the winter. So
Okay.
I-
Things never happen as fast as you'd think they could, but yeah, I get it.
yeah,
Sorry, what?
it's governments, unfortunately, they work at kind of a slower pace. So we're trying. That's why we asked for the design money now, to try to speed the process up as much as possible. We know the selectmen certainly know it's certainly their number one priority, and they really would like to see this finally come to fruition.
Well, I encourage them to move along quickly because I'm not getting any younger. All right.
Duly noted, Alan. Duly noted. I'll mark that down.
Anthony, is this going to be funded inside the levy? Is that the intent here with this one
Yes.
as well?
Yes, the senior center, yes.
Okay.
We done? Any other questions on that? Okay, public input. David, do we have any public?
We do not. No, sir.
Members update. Tyler?
Yeah, let's see. I probably have a couple more things from the TAC meeting we had. Let's see what's financial here. We already talked about the money from the Amazon last mile, so thanks for saving me time on that, Anthony. The other stuff we talked about, let's see, there's some work being done around Cooper Farm Trail and Bridge funding. They've been hoping to get a grant from MassDOT to fund some of that, which did not come through. Then there's a plan B for funding from Mass Trails, which I guess there was some administrative issue with filing for that grant, so that didn't happen. And then plan C was around asking CPC to fund that trail for for this year. I'm not sure if that was on the CPC budget that flashed by, but I know that was going to be an ask coming from TAC to CPC to see if they would be willing to fund that. As they've already solicited a donation from a developer for donating materials. So there's that. A lot of work going on around landline and the Showboat Regional Greenways Coalition for marking signage on roads around mass bike. There's also a lot of conversation around combining or looking at the viability of combining TAC with BPAC, right? Trying to keep both boards active. I think they're going to go back to the selectmen for that. And then I think the one other issue that was a little bit related to finance was around just exploring whether there was a funding source for walking and cycling improvements. This all ties back to the master plan. I think we did determine, as part of that conversation, there really isn't a funding source, and I think that was just going to go back to the Board of Selectmen for their input or discussion as they look at updating NPIC and the master plan goals. So that's what I have in my notes. I'm a terrible secretary recording this stuff while I'm trying to listen, so it's tough to do both. Yeah. Appreciate we don't have to do that here.
Thank you. Jerry?
I just have a question, which maybe someone can just kind of clarify for me, not really related to finance, but the Amazon project that can fund the crosswalk is because they're paying for it. I guess I'm just wondering why we had such an issue being able to get that same kind of a crosswalk at the high school like they have at Kimball's, because the one there is really ineffective. And is that just because that's a state road that the state has? Because they said they had to have a traffic study and there wasn't enough use to justify it, but we can just put one in the other location because it's a town road and Amazon's paying for it. Is that the difference?
So yeah, Jerry, both roads are actually state roads.
Okay.
Taylor Street and then the high school is also. So there's a difference. So the one that we're talking about installing is the one like Kimball's, the flashing yellow.
Yeah.
Which you have a crosswalk and you hope people stop,
Right.
But the one at the high school was an actual stop sign, traffic signal for all sides. So there was going to be, my understanding, I think they were going to have a designated turning lane, and then it's all on sensors. So you're not going to have a red light in the middle of the night coming from the high school if there's no cars going down that hill. So that was a much more complicated. So that light in itself is, I think it was over $300,000 to do something just for the light. It's a much bigger project. So this is something we still have to ask the state if they're okay with, but because it's not a signal really that's going to stop traffic unless somebody's crossing, we don't anticipate there being an issue. It's certainly not something that we would have wanted at the high school, was that type of light, because we really need, for the safety, is to have a red light. So when you're coming out of the high school, you can go left or right without taking your life in your own hands. So.
But I don't think that light does turn red, does it?
No, but the new traffic signal, once there's a new traffic.
They are changing that.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's going to be a complete over the road with the stoplight and yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Greg?
I've got nothing.
Not
Going back to left field.
Hey, not to blue sky here too much, but you talk about those kind of traffic signals. I mean, that's what should be across from Castle in the Trees, right? So the flashing lights.
Something to draw attention, yeah.
People crossing there. Anyway, I always thought there was some issue because they were state roads. So it's real interesting to me that Taylor is also state road, but we can do it there. We think we'll be able to do it there.
We think. We still have to talk to even the state about putting sidewalks. It's when they don't have to spend money, they're more apt to say yes to things. When we ask them to spend money with us, then we need studies, and then we need to jump through a couple of hoops before we get there. So They will always let you do what you want to do when you're using your own money.
Okay.
Anything else, Betsy?
No, thank you. Mm-mm.
Tom, are you there?
I'm here.
We
Do
just
you
see
have
a
any-
chin,
have
Tom.
any
Just a
input?
chin. There you go.
There we go. No, I'm good. I'm good.
Tom, can you play wide receiver for the Patriots anymore? I know Edelman just left, so can you put him back on? Do you think?
I'm going to be that, hybrid wide receiver, tight end.
Okay. Just we might need you for a few games, maybe for the playoffs next year.
Maybe one play. That's about all I could last.
Not going to model for Sports Illustrated like he did.
Right.
Okay, guys, that's
Don't go there. Next. Yeah.
that's not necessarily a wrap, but has anybody else got another question? If not, we'll move to minutes. Marilyn, are you out there?
Is.
Aha.
There she is.
Unmute, please. Marilyn,
Think she's on mute.
Marilyn, you have to unmute.
There, okay.
There we go.
Okay, I have the minutes of March 9th.
Okay,
That was the Finance Committee meeting of March 9th. Has everybody read them and everything?
any changes?
Any changes, any comments?
If not, I'll take a motion.
Sounds good.
Second,
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of March 9th. Tyler,
Tyler's yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Betsy,
Betsy's yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
and Alan's a yes. They're approved. Thank you very much, folks. Our
Wait a
next,
minute, I have one more.
oh, you have another.
Yes,
Okay, move on.
I have the joint Finance Committee and Select Board Committee meeting on March 22nd.
Yeah.
Okay. Any changes, omissions, adds? If not, I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second,
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of March 22nd. Tyler,
Yes.
Greg,
I abstain. I had to drop.
aha. Tom,
Yes.
Betsy,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Alan is a yes. That is approved. Do you have another one, Marilyn?
No, that's it.
Okay, good, super. Okay, anyone have any other questions for anybody? If not, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Anthony. Sean, we didn't hear much from you, but it's good to see your smiley face.
Man, a few words, but is a whiz in finance.
Oh, what he said.
Motion
Okay,
to,
do I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, what? Our next meeting is the 27th. 7 o'clock, right here. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion
So
to
moved.
adjourn?
Second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Tyler,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Betsy,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Alan is a yes. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great night, everybody.
Night.